Looking at our configuration commands for RIP version 2, to enable the process or to get things started, we're going to issue the router RIP command. Now we're going to do this in global configuration mode on our routers. We just go into config T and we type router RIP, and that'll go ahead and start the routing process, but we're not quite done yet. We want to specify the version because by default it's not going to be version 2, which means it's going to be sending to broadcast and it's not going to allow us the manual summarization and so on. So we go ahead and enable version 2 with the configuration command version 2. Then we're going to enable RIP for specific networks. So whatever networks are assigned to our interfaces, we're going to use the network command to add the classful network that we want to participate in the RIP routing process. And then to disable that auto summarization, we're going to issue that no auto-summary command, just like I mentioned there. Now, as I mentioned, RIP version 2 does do MD5 and plaintext authentication. Now, plaintext is not recommended because the password is sent in every single update. So what's the point of doing an authentication between our routing protocols? Well, it should be pretty apparent. We do an authentication between our routing protocols because we want to make sure that the routes that we're receiving are from someone we trust, from a device that's actually in our domain. Now, if I didn't do a routing protocol authentication, then anybody could come in, plug in, start receiving RIP routes and start sending RIP routes to me and could quite possibly change my default routes out of the network, creating a man-in-the-middle attack or just injecting false routes to the network, and we wouldn't want that to happen. So we want to do an authentication, but plain text is not the way to do it because the password is going to be sent in each update. But it does prevent an attacker from introducing invalid updates where they try to trick us into sending stuff to the wrong place. So in this example, we got two routers, and if they're exchanging routes via RIP, then every single routing update would be authenticated over that link. And that's regardless of whether we use plain text or MD5 authentication, but just know that MD5 authentication is the way that we're going to want to go with things.